For weeks, the disappearance of Lily and Jack Sullivan felt like it was going nowhere. Search teams came. Volunteers walked the woods.
Tips poured in.
Then slowly, the noise faded. Public updates became rare. RCMP stopped speaking openly, and many people began to fear the case was going cold. But then, just 7 minutes ago, something changed. No press conference. No announcement. No warning. A new RCMP warrant was quietly filed. And according to multiple sources close to the investigation, this warrant was not routine. It was targeted. Why this warrant is different? In most missing children cases, warrants are filed early and often. Phone records, search permissions, digital data. But this one came late, and it came silently. Sources say the warrant directly names Darren Gettys, a man who until recently was seen by the public as loud, obsessive, but ultimately harmless. Someone who talked too much, posted too often, inserted himself everywhere. But behind the scenes, RCMP were seeing something very different. This warrant was not about curiosity. It was not about routine data. It was about escalation. Who is Darren Gettys, really? To the public, Darren Gettys appeared as a self-styled truth seeker. He showed up online constantly. He posted theories. He criticized RCMP. He filmed himself near search areas. He claimed he knew things others didn't. At first, many dismissed him.
Every case has people like that.
But investigators didn't dismiss him. Because Gettys wasn't just talking. He had access. Access that raised red flags. According to sources, Gettys was seen near the Sullivan property multiple times. Knew people inside the family's inner circle. Inserted himself into search efforts. Handed out flyers. Attended vigils. Comforted family members. That alone isn't criminal. But then RCMP noticed something else. His timeline never quite matched. The phone pings near the bridge. One of the most critical locations in this case is the wooded bridge area, near where a pink blanket was later found. RCMP sources say Gettys' phone pinged twice near that area. The pings happened after the area had already been cleared. He never reported being there. He never explained why his phone was there. In investigations, unexplained presence matters, especially when it happens after official searches end. The deleted messages. RCMP digital forensics teams recovered fragments of encrypted texts. These messages were deleted, time-stamped days after the search began, connected to Gettys or someone close to him. One fragment reportedly referenced the blanket location. Another simply said, "It's done." RCMP has not publicly confirmed who wrote the message, but they also haven't denied its relevance. And that silence is telling. People close to him are being re-interviewed. In the last 24 hours, sources say RCMP have re-interviewed at least 3 people close to Gettys. One person refused to cooperate. Another immediately lawyered up. A third reportedly provided new information. In major cases, this usually signals momentum. Someone talked.
Or someone contradicted themselves.
Either way, RCMP moved fast after that. The vehicle on the service road. Another detail investigators are now focusing on. A vehicle matching Gettys was reportedly seen reversing down a gravel service road behind the search perimeter. This happened days before the pink blanket was discovered. That raises difficult questions. Why return there? Why that road? Why after searches ended? Investigators believe someone may have returned to the scene. Not to search, but to stage. Why did it take months for his name to surface? Many viewers are asking the same question. If Gettys was on RCMP's radar, why didn't we hear about him sooner? According to insiders, the answer is complicated. There are reported connections between the Gettys family, a former CPS worker, individuals who had access to the Sullivan home. Sources suggest these connections may have delayed scrutiny, intentionally or not. RCMP did not want to move early without solid proof. They waited. And they watched. This is no longer a simple missing persons case. Sources close to the task force say RCMP now believe the disappearance may not have been spontaneous. It may have involved planning. Multiple people may have played roles. Some actions may have occurred after the children vanished. Staged clues. Delayed statements. Carefully controlled silence. Not perfect, because someone made a mistake. Why the trail cameras matter so much. This is where Melissa Scott's trail cameras come in. Her cameras were positioned along a remote access path near the wooded bridge. They had been running for weeks. Quietly. Constantly. Recording everything. RCMP requested days of footage. Not hours. Not clips.
Days.
Sources say the footage may show movement near the bridge long after searches ended. If that's true, it changes everything. The timing is not a coincidence. Shortly after RCMP secured the trail camera footage, they moved to obtain the warrant. No media. No statement. Late-night approval. Targeted. This is not how investigators behave when they are unsure. This is how they move when evidence aligns. Why RCMP is staying quiet. RCMP has pulled back from media. They've redirected resources. They've issued subpoenas quietly. They are not asking for public help right now. That suggests one thing. They believe they are close. This is no longer about searching the woods. It's about building a prosecutable case. What this means for the case. RCMP has not announced an arrest. They have not confirmed charges. But behavior matters. And every move points to preparation. The warrant. The interviews. The digital seizures. The trail cam footage. The silence. This case is shifting. From mystery to investigation to accountability. The most important question. The question is no longer, did something happen to Lily and Jack? The question is now, who knew and who lied? And if RCMP believes Darren Gettys is involved in any way, then this case may be on the edge of a major breakthrough. When people think about evidence, they often imagine fingerprints, footprints, or DNA. But in modern investigations, the most powerful evidence is often invisible. It lives in phones, in apps, in deleted messages, in data people believe is gone forever. And in the Lily and Jack Sullivan case, that digital trail may be the reason RCMP suddenly moved forward. Why digital evidence changed the direction. For months, investigators struggled with one major problem. There was no clear physical trail. No confirmed sighting. No verified location after the children vanished. No witnesses who could say, I saw them here. But phones don't forget the way people do. Even when messages are deleted. Even when apps are wiped. Even when locations are turned off. RCMP's cyber unit began quietly rebuilding digital activity connected to people who kept appearing around the case. One name came up again. And again. And again. The problem with deleted data. Many people believe that once they delete a message, it's gone. That's not how it works. According to forensic experts, deleted data often remains in fragments. Cached files. Backup logs. Server-side timestamps. Metadata stored by apps. RCMP analysts reportedly reconstructed partial conversations, not full texts, but enough to understand intent and timing. What stood out wasn't one message. It was a pattern. Messages that didn't match the story. Sources say RCMP noticed that some messages were sent after search areas were cleared. Reference locations never publicly released. Mentioned timing that conflicted with official statements. In one recovered fragment, the phrase allegedly referenced a location investigators had not yet announced to the public. That's important. Because knowing a location before it becomes public usually means one of two things. You were there. Or someone who was there told you. Either way, it raises concern. The blanket and the timing. The pink blanket became one of the most sensitive pieces of evidence in the case. RCMP has never said when they first suspected that area. But digital timestamps suggest that someone connected to the investigation may have known before the discovery was announced. This doesn't automatically mean involvement, but it does mean information leaked or was shared. Investigators began asking, who knew about the blanket early? Who talked about it privately? Who mentioned that area before RCMP did? The answers narrowed the focus quickly. Location data that couldn't be explained. Phone location data isn't always precise. But when multiple signals overlap, GPS, Wi-Fi, cell towers, patterns form. RCMP sources say one phone showed repeated presence near a service road, a wooded access point, a bridge near the blanket location. Not once, more than once, and not during official searches. After, when no one was supposed to be there. Why after the search matters. This detail is critical. Search teams sweep areas thoroughly. Once cleared, those zones are logged. Anyone returning afterward stands out. Investigators believe that post-search movement suggests one of three things. Someone was checking something. Someone was retrieving something. Someone was placing something. None of those options are harmless in a missing children case. The silence from certain phones. Another red flag investigators noticed was silence. Phones that were normally active suddenly stopped. No texts, no calls, no data usage. This silence occurred at key moments in the timeline. Experts call this intentional digital absence. It doesn't prove wrongdoing, but it suggests awareness. Why RCMP focused on associates? RCMP didn't just look at one person. They expanded outward. Friends, contacts, family connections. They re-interviewed people who had already spoken months earlier. But this time, they weren't asking the same questions. They were asking why stories changed. Inconsistent digital alibis. Several individuals reportedly gave alibis based on phone usage. I was at home. I was online. I was texting. But forensic analysis showed messages sent later than claimed. Location services disabled during key windows. Activity logs that didn't match verbal statements. Even small inconsistencies matter, because lies don't usually fall apart all at once. They unravel slowly. The role of encrypted apps. Encrypted messaging apps are legal, but they complicate investigations. RCMP reportedly recovered evidence showing encrypted apps installed shortly before the disappearance. App data wiped shortly afterward. New accounts created under slightly altered usernames. Investigators believe this behavior suggests preparation or reaction, either before something happened or after something went wrong. Why some people lawyered up immediately. When RCMP returned to certain individuals for follow-up interviews, reactions varied. Some cooperated fully. Some appeared nervous. Some immediately requested legal counsel. Asking for a lawyer is a right. But from an investigative standpoint, timing matters. Lawyering up suddenly, after months of cooperation, often signals new information entering the case. The one statement that forced a shift. According to sources, one re-interview produced a statement that directly contradicted earlier testimony. Not dramatically. Just enough. Enough to suggest someone had adjusted their story after learning new details. That moment reportedly triggered the warrant, digital seizures, quiet surveillance. From that point on, RCMP stopped treating this as a missing persons case, a case moving into its final phase. By the end of this chapter in the investigation, RCMP had digital timelines, location overlaps, contradictory statements, post-search activity, no public announcement, no press conference, just movement, quiet, deliberate, focused. What this means going forward. Digital evidence doesn't scream. It whispers. But when enough whispers line up, investigators listen. RCMP now appears to be building something that doesn't rely on hope or speculation. It relies on data. And data is hard to argue with. By the time RCMP reached the stage of the investigation, something was clear. This case was no longer drifting. It was narrowing. Slowly. Quietly. Deliberately. And when investigations narrow, it means options are disappearing. Why RCMP stopped asking the public for help. Earlier in the case, RCMP asked for tips. They asked for sightings. They asked for information. They asked the public to stay alert. But recently, that stopped. No new tip lines. No new appeals. No media briefings. That silence is not accidental. According to former investigators, when police stop asking for help, It often means they believe the answers are already inside the evidence they have. They're no longer searching for information.
They're verifying it.
The shift from search to scrutiny. At the beginning, the focus was on finding Lily and Jack. Woods were searched, waterways were checked, trails were walked again and again. But now, RCMP attention appears focused on people. Their movements, their words, their decisions. Because cases like this don't end in forests. They end in interviews, timelines, and courtrooms. Why every minute now matters. Investigators work backward. They take the last confirmed moments. They build forward. They look for breaks. In this case, RCMP has reportedly narrowed the most important window to a short period of time when no adults could clearly confirm where the children were. That window is small. And small windows are powerful because they limit possibilities. The power of combined evidence. One piece of evidence rarely solves a case, but combined evidence does. RCMP is now working with digital location data, recovered message fragments, trail camera footage, witness statements, timeline inconsistencies. None of these alone prove anything, but together they form a structure. And once that structure stands, investigators begin testing it for weaknesses. Why RCMP is double-checking everything. Before acting, police confirm. Then they confirm again. They ask the same questions in different ways. They revisit statements months apart. They compare words against data. Because arrests don't end cases. They begin legal battles. RCMP knows that if they move too soon, everything can collapse. So they move slowly. The importance of behavior after the fact. One of the strongest indicators investigators look at is not what happened during the disappearance. It's what happened after. People grieve differently. People react differently. But certain behaviors stand out. Returning to cleared areas. Withholding information. Adjusting timelines. Over-explaining simple events. Inserting oneself repeatedly into the investigation. These actions don't prove guilt, but they demand explanation. Why some statements now look different. Early interviews are emotional. People are shocked, confused, unprepared. Later interviews are calmer. And that's when inconsistencies surface. RCMP sources say some statements now sound too refined, too rehearsed. When stories stop sounding natural and start sounding structured, investigators pay attention. The role of silence. Silence can be loud. When someone suddenly stops posting, stops talking, stops engaging, especially when they were previously very vocal. RCMP reportedly noticed this shift in more than one person connected to the case. Silence can mean many things, but investigators always ask why it starts when it does. Why RCMP has not announced charges yet. Many people ask the same question. If RCMP has all this, why haven't they acted? The answer is simple. Because they don't just want an arrest. They want a conviction. That requires airtight evidence. And in a case involving children, they cannot afford mistakes. What preparing to act actually looks like. Preparing doesn't mean sirens. It means paperwork, warrants reviewed, evidence cataloged, digital chains verified, witness statements cross-checked, prosecutors consulted. When all of that happens quietly, it usually means something serious is coming. The final piece RCMP is waiting for. According to sources, investigators are waiting on confirmation. One detail, one verification, one last connection between timeline and evidence. When that happens, the case moves forward. Not publicly, legally. Why this case is different from others. Many cases fade. This one didn't. Because too many things didn't line up. Too many small details conflicted. Too many answers created new questions. RCMP followed those questions. And they led here. What happens next? If RCMP moves forward, the public will not hear everything immediately. Details will be sealed. Names may be protected. Proceedings will be controlled. That's normal. Truth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives through documents. The most important thing to remember. Lily and Jack are not theories. They're children. This case is not entertainment. It is about understanding what happened, learning from it, and ensuring accountability where it belongs. Analysis matters. Accuracy matters. Care matters. Why this story isn't over. Whether charges come tomorrow or months from now, the direction is clear. RCMP is no longer asking what happened. They are asking who knew, who acted, and who didn't tell the truth. And once those answers are confirmed, this case will change forever. Final thought. The quietest moments in investigations are often the most dangerous for those involved. Because silence usually means preparation. And preparation means the truth is getting closer.